So you've heard about red raspberry leaf, or you might have some red raspberries growing in your backyard, and you've heard that, hey, leaves can be used too, and you want to know more about what all the fuss is about. Well, red raspberry leaf is affectionately known as the women's herb, and while it does have potential benefits for pregnant women, it also has potential benefits for everyone else too. So that's what we're going to talk about today, so stay tuned. Welcome to True Freedom Permaculture, where I show you all the tips and tricks you need to have a green thumb, even if you weren't born with one. Alright, so let me show you some red raspberry leaf up close. And I have used some red raspberry leaves from my own patch, but I just don't have enough new growth to harvest from that I can get enough for the amount that we have consumed. So I do have some that I purchased, which is what I imagine a lot of you are going to be doing, and you can see it's cut and sifted. It's organic, cut and sifted red raspberry leaf. So it still has a very potent smell, and I do notice a difference with the red raspberry leaf. If it's growing, if I'm using it while it's growing, the color is obviously very similar to the color it naturally is, which means that the herb is really fresh and of good quality. If I dry it, it does tend to retain its color a little bit better, and to preserve the leaves intact and then crumbling them when I want to use them, it does retain more of its potency. So there are benefits to using fresh or fresher red raspberry leaf, but like I said, you can definitely buy some good quality sources of it too. So the first thing we'll address is, because if you do know of red raspberry leaf as a medicinal herb, it is known to be good for pregnant women. And it is claimed that the red raspberry leaf will alleviate nausea, which a lot of women experience during different phases of their pregnancy. It's also known to tone the uterus, which when I first heard that, I was like, well, is that desirable? Do you do you want that? And it is known to strengthen and nourish the uterus, and that is why it is it's touted as being able to speed up potentially the labor process, because when you go through labor, your uterine muscles contract. So the stronger that they are, the easier it could be for the baby to come out, because your uterus is helping to birth a child. So that is how it connects to the whole pregnancy thing as well. Oh, and it's also touted as being able to enrich your milk flow. So an overall generally believed good herb for pregnancy. Now, is this true? Well, research has shown us, and what research is available has shown us, is that it gets mixed reviews. So there are some studies that back this up, and there are some studies that disprove this. And all I will say on this subject is that upon my research, I cross-referenced different books, and most of these books were written well before globalization, well before the internet. So I researched things on like Native American herbs, and then books that were written in Europe, and they all kind of came to similar conclusions about the benefits of red raspberry leaf. So that tells me that these people that were pretty isolated from one another, if they all came to somewhat of the same conclusion, then in my opinion, there's a high likelihood that it does in fact have some benefits. But again, that's my personal belief. As always, go to your trusted medical provider before starting any kind of herb or introducing a new food or drink into your diet, because just because it's good for one person doesn't mean it's good for another person. And there are factors that you have to consider that are specific to red raspberry leaf. For example, it is known to mimic the effects of estrogen in the body. So if you have pre-existing conditions that are hormonal, so for example, like breast cancer or uterine cancer, or if you have things like fibroids, red raspberry leaf may not be appropriate for you. So definitely double check. But anyway, back to the studies that have been done and getting mixed reviews on it. Sometimes studies don't exist because they don't make money for certain people or certain companies. That's all I'm going to say on that. But also, you have to consider who's running this study. Are they completely unbiased? Is there a motivation for them to find a certain result or not find a certain result? So these are things that we have to consider as well. And there's no right answer, no blanket answer for everyone. You just have to do your own research and tailor it to your personal situation and make the best possible choice for yourself. Another note is that because red raspberry leaf can cause uterine contractions, which is why some people use it, usually you see red raspberry leaf being recommended in the 2nd and 3rd trimesters of pregnancy. You may wish to avoid it if you are in the early stage of pregnancy. And red raspberry leaf has been documented in use since the 1500s. So people, and it could have been used before that, but just not documented. So people have been using this for quite a while. And although the science might be mixed, what we do know for sure is that red raspberry leaf is rich in certain vitamins and minerals. So it's rich in vitamins B, C, and E, and then it's also rich in potassium, calcium, and magnesium. So for those of you that are not pregnant, red raspberry leaf can still be a powerful source of nutrition for you. And it contains a lot of antioxidants, and it also has astringent properties. So people have used it as an infusion of it as a mouthwash or gargle for if you have sores in your mouth, like canker sores, for example. And it's also used to treat painful menstruation. You can make a cold infusion out of it, which is said to be good for treating diarrhea. So that's another general use too. Now, what does it taste like? A lot of people want to know, what does it taste like? And in my experience, everyone's different, but in my experience, it doesn't taste just like black tea. That's the common descriptor, is that it tastes like black tea, and there's similar qualities to it. It has some tannins, but to me it also has this kind of verdant quality to it that, if anything, to me it tastes sort of like a hybrid in between like a black tea and a green tea, or like a really fresh and vibrant oolong maybe. But yes, to me, I like it. I think it's pleasant. I don't think it's bad tasting. It doesn't taste like raspberries, so please don't expect it to when you go to try it. You might be in for a little bit of a surprise. But as far as the directions too, you'll probably want to know that. Just take a teaspoon if you're using dried leaves, take a teaspoon of it. If you're using fresh leaves, take a tablespoon of it and put it in the bottom of your strainer in a mug or teapot, and then pour boiling water over it. It doesn't have to be necessarily, below a certain temperature, but just take the boiling water, pour it over, and then let it sit for 15 minutes to create an infusion. And just make sure that you capture all of the steam. So either like with a dish towel or with a lid that covers it completely, because otherwise you are going to lose some of the volatile oils when you infuse the leaves. I really enjoyed learning about this herb and all the different uses because, like many of you, I had heard of it, but I thought it was only associated with pregnant women. But knowing that it has many other uses as well, I definitely want to keep some around so that I can add it to my medicinal tool belt to bust it out whenever it's needed for either myself or members of my family. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all again soon.